Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Ma'am, one reminder to be given regarding we had proposed for the G20 poster making competitions.
Yes, sir.
So we have received very few. So
Yes, sir.
during the session or during the end of the session, kindly announce those who have done it. Kindly send it to the through the Gmail of Patliputra Sahodaya at patna@gmail.com, and also hard copy to be sent to the office.
Sure, sir. Sure.
So because we have kept the 20th of April as the last day.
Yes, sir.
All the best. Start the session.
Thank you. Thank you. May we start, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Good evening, all of you. So here we are today with another exciting session by Patliputra Sahodaya. And before I begin my session, a very, very good evening to all of you. And thanks to Patliputra Sahodaya for allowing me to share this platform with you. Today we have a very wonderful topic. Actually it is like suppose you get a gift, you're very happy. But suppose you get a gift in which there are small, many gifts in that one gift packet. I think that will make you all the more happy, isn't it? So today's session is something like that. It is a show of goodies. We have so many good ideas at one place. So I have tried to put in many good ideas at one place, which will help teachers in making their classroom teaching learning process a much better one, a more effective one, a more learning outcome oriented session. So this is our desire today. So today we are going to do a topic on latest trends in classroom teaching. So once again, thank you Patliputra Sahodaya for this opportunity, and I would like to share the screen with you now. I hope the screen is visible to all of you. Okay. Now we are going to go to slideshow view so that it is better visible to each one of you present here. And I hope it's better now. So today the topic that we are going to discuss is latest trends in classroom teaching. And I am your resource person for the day, your friend for the day, your guide for the day, Mitali Mukherjee, Principal, Indrapuram Public School Girls. So my dear friends, classroom teaching already, I think many of you, or rather maybe all of you, have done this session on classroom teaching. During the last academic session, we had so many sessions on classroom teaching by different resource person. And we should have also, because ultimately the aim of a teacher is that when a teacher enters a class or when the teacher leaves the class, in between those 35 to 40 minutes that the teacher has, there has to be some very constructive classroom teaching happening in the class. You know, all of you enter the class with a particular learning outcome in your mind. And then at the end of the class, each one of you want to check that the learning outcome that I had decided for today has been achieved or not. And I'm sure you have your own ways of checking that. Some of you do assessment for learning. Some of you do exit cards. Some of you do question answers. Some of you maybe ask for a worksheet. Some of you ask the children to write on the board. And you just write on. I'm very sure about this. So this is classroom teaching. We have discussed many things in the last session. Today, what we are going to do is we are going to try and understand that what new things can be incorporated into classroom teaching so that it becomes a very wonderful session for the students as well. बहुत simple सी बात है, मैं आपको समझाती हूँ. For example, suppose you are a vegetarian. Now, suppose you are served dal makhni and shahi paneer every day. Every day you're served roti, dal makhni, shahi paneer. Now, these are very good items. Shahi paneer is a great item. Dal makhni is a great item. Roti is a evergreen item. But suppose you're giving dal makhni and shahi paneer and roti every day, morning, evening, every day the same menu. Will you like it? Will you like it? Yes or no? Will you enjoy? Will you enjoy? Thank you, Sonali ji. The answer has already come. You will not enjoy it. You will not like to have it. No, 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 no. But suppose I ask you stand alone. कि भैया आपको दाल मखनी पसंद है? Maybe you will say, many of you will say, yes, ma'am. Many of you will say, yeah, I like Shahi Paneer. But if it is served every day, you will not enjoy. So no matter, maybe you are a great teacher. You have very good techniques with you. You teach very well. You know your content very well. But suppose, my dear friends, there is no change in your trend. You don't have a fashion trend in the classroom. You don't go by the choice of your students. You don't change your style, and your style remains the same throughout. Then you will become a very, very predictable teacher, you know. You'll become a very predictable teacher, and people who are very predictable, they're not liked. Like, you know, I'm sure in the beginning of the session, you all must have thought, okay, today Mithali ma'am will do what? Today, what will be her topic? Today, what new thing she will tell us? If that inquisitiveness you don't have within you, that means Mithali ma'am is not a good teacher. So similar kind of inquisitiveness your children should also have. That when today sir is coming in the class, when today ma'am will come in the class, what will she do new? Which concept she will apply? Which idea she will use or he will use? What will we learn today? So you must be a very, very unpredictable teacher for your students. This is the very first thing I would like to say. So for being unpredictable, the teacher has to know many, many techniques. So today's session, we are going to discuss a few techniques with you. So what are the objectives of today's program? The first objective is to adapt the managerial skills and techniques which will help them establish classroom order and discipline. Because I'm very sure until and unless you are able to establish an orderly classroom, a well-disciplined classroom. See, when I say disciplined, I'm saying within quotes. Discipline doesn't mean keep quiet, don't talk. Okay, discipline doesn't mean this. Somebody is saying that I'm not audible. So may I request, friends, you please tell me through the chat box whether I'm audible or not. Am I audible? Am I audible? Okay, fine. Then whoever has written that, I will request that sir or ma'am to kindly check the internet connections. I think there is some problem in your net connection, sir. So next is, how will you make your classroom disciplined? That is very important. Then we will be discussing some effective teaching styles, which will help your room teaching go to the next level. Then we'll adopt some strategies for dealing large classes and develop a personal plan for effective classroom management. Basically, these are our objectives for the day. Now look at this beautiful, this slide. Classroom management. First thing, to have a very successful teaching learning process is to learn how to manage your class. So there's one technique already in front of you. I do not need to go to a gym. One of my classroom management strategy is to circulate frequently around the room. I figure I walk 3 miles a day. So this is one technique. How you can make your classroom manageable, how you can develop a good strategy in your classroom, how you can make your classroom orderly and disciplined. So if you keep on moving, that is going to help you. So today we are going to discuss many, many such small tips and tricks. First of all, friends, before you start understanding the trends in teaching and learning, let me make it very clear to you that what is the meaning of teaching and learning? What is the meaning? Does teaching learning mean that you have to go to the class and make the child run all the tables or the formulae, all the dates? When was Akbar born? Who was Birbal's mother? Who was Jodhabai? And who was this and who was that? How many wars were fought? How many name the freedom fighters? Name the presidents of India in chronological order. Does this mean teaching? Teaching is all about this, is it? What do you think? Let me understand your views first. What do you think? Is teaching all about this? Somebody's already saying, no, ma'am, teaching is not about that. Very good, very good, very good. So what is teaching all about? You look at the slide very carefully. It says that when the teacher is effective, the teacher establishes effective learning classrooms. That means in the classroom, good amount of learning is happening. Now, what learning is happening? Is it the rote learning that I discussed just now? Or learning is happening. Learning is a very vast word. Learning is within quotes here. What is learning? Learning means the child can learn how to think. The child can learn how to dance. The child can learn how to be self-disciplined. The child can learn how to do self-study. This is also learning. And I think this kind of learning actually helps in the long run. Instead of just learning what is written in the book, that is known as rote learning. So friends, please remember that if you want to become an effective teacher, you have to establish effective learning classrooms. And how will your classroom be effective learning classrooms? When the children are engaged. Like suppose just now, I'm speaking. I don't know what you're doing. Some of you may have put your, you put yourself on mute, and you may have switched off your video, and maybe you're sleeping because you got up very early in the morning. It's morning school now. I'm sure you're not doing that, but I'm just giving an example. Maybe somebody's cooking right now. You reached home and you started cooking. Maybe some of you are preparing some snacks for your child, for evening snacks. I don't have any control. I don't know. I don't know what you're doing. So this is supposed to be a bad classroom actually. So, when the teacher can keep the students engaged in the classroom, if everybody is doing something in the classroom, that is supposed to be a place where effective learning is happening. And if the children are engaged, they will show you positive behavioral changes. Like, for example, suppose you have a PTM in your class and the parent comes and says, teacher, my child watches a lot of television these days. Please help. Why? Why do you think the parent comes and tells you this? Why the parent doesn't do things himself or herself? Why the parent is not doing that? Because the parent has a lot of faith on you. The parent feels that the teacher can change the behavior of my child. That means teaching means change in behavior. Suppose you are there's a very rowdy child in a class, not listening to anybody, very naughty, doing all sorts of things which are not supposed to be done. That means teaching is not proper. That means the teacher has not been able to establish a relationship with the child, which in turn can change the behavior of the child. Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? So please understand this, that effective teaching impacts the behavior of the child and changes negative behavior into positive behavior. And this is all about teaching and learning. So सबसे पहले ट्रेंड्स समझने के पहले आपको ये समझना होगा कि I'm not giving you any tips, and I'm not trying to reinforce that the child has to learn very good mathematics or very good English. That is a byproduct of your classroom teaching. Learning, being good in maths, learning certain tips of maths, learning certain tricks of maths, learning history or understanding English or understanding languages, that's a part of your classroom teaching. But actually the major work that you do is you engage your students so that behavioral changes can be found. So we are today trying to learn, trying to understand how we can do this. And for this, I'm going to give you some tips. But before we go to the tips, let me tell you this very important, why we are discussing about trends. पहले जमाने में भी तो पढ़ाई होती थी, हमने भी तो पढ़ाई की है, हमारी टीचर लेक्चर देते थे, नोट्स देते थे, क्वेश्चन आंसर्स करवा देते थे, हम आईएएस ऑफिसर बन गए, हम प्रिंसिपल्स बन गए, हम टीचर्स बन गए, हम डॉक्टर्स बन गए. तो अभी क्यों? Why are we talking about trends and all? Because today's learners are different from the learner that you were. They are 21st century learners. You must remember, friends, they have a very, very short attention span. They crave for interactivity. They keep on talking. That's not because they want to misbehave in the class. It's because that is a feature of the 21st century children, that they crave to interact. They want to talk. They don't have anybody at home to talk. They're single child, in the home. They don't have grandparents. They don't have uncle, aunt. They have only mama, papa. Mama, papa is busy throughout the day. They don't know how to talk. They spend all their time. They're in search of new things, right? They spend all the time on the mobile. So they want to talk in the class. So don't consider this as a misbehavior. You should consider this as their characteristic feature. They have visual images. They read visual images very well. So they are visual learners. They have weak reading skills. They have excellent visual spatial skills, and they have very fast response time. Like, for example, you ask a question. Before you end the question, the child will raise the hand. And then, many times the teacher says, "Arey beta, mujhe question to pura karne do. Let me finish the question." So these are the characteristics of the 21st century learners. These were not your characteristics when you were a learner. Or rather, we are a learner throughout our life. Rather, I want to say when you were a student in the school. So the way you were taught, you cannot apply the same methods for teaching your students. Therefore, we need to change ourselves. The change is the demand of time. प्लीज डोंट थिंक कि आजकल सारे लोग चेंज के बारे में बात करते हैं। नहीं, क्या प्रॉब्लम थी हमारी पुराने सिस्टम में? इतने अच्छे तो बच्चे निकले, आईएएस ऑफिसर्स निकले, डॉक्टर्स निकले, इंजीनियर्स निकले, प्रधानमंत्री निकले, विदेश मंत्री निकले। हमारी पहले के पढ़ाई के सिस्टम में कोई खराबी नहीं थी, बट द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट द स्टूडेंट्स हैव चेंज्ड, their features have changed, their characteristics have changed, therefore you also need to change along with them. Okay, so today, the 21st century classrooms are without walls. That means you need to take them outside. So you need to take them outside the classrooms, you need to take them for field trips, you need to take them to the garden, you need to take them to the places. They're multilingual, they're interactive, the classrooms are online, they're in the cloud, online classes, and they're BYOT, bring your own device. You will see the education system of so many countries where the children bring their own device and they learn from that. And problem-based learning, whatever problem, suppose I'm a child in your class and I have a problem, you have to teach me according to me. You have to teach me in such a way that my problem is solved. So again, another boy is a child in the class, he has some different problem, so you have to teach that different child in a different way. So that means, rather I should say, individualized teaching has become very, very important these days, because no two students are similar. Okay, so that is why, my dear friends, आप सबसे पहले ये दिमाग में बैठा लीजिए, अच्छे से बैठा लीजिए, 100% बैठा लीजिए कि बदलना तो है। बदलना इसलिए नहीं है कि पुराना सिस्टम खराब था, बदलना इसलिए है कि बच्चे बदल गए। Now, चूंकि हमारा कस्टमर बदल गया है ना, you understand what I'm saying, customer, चूंकि हमारा कस्टमर बदल गया है, तो हमारा प्रोडक्ट भी बदलना जरूरी है। And what is product? Your teaching learning methods. Okay, now the students really evaluate what they see in their teachers. Teach me the way I want. We cannot teach the way we were taught, which I'm trying to reinforce again and again. So now let's start with the trends, because the topic of today's session is latest trends in classroom teaching. So the trend number one, the first tip, first trend that I would like to give you is that manage your classroom. If your classroom is a well-managed place, then you can create an environment which will support and facilitate academic as well as social emotional learning in the class. अगर आपकी क्लास में किसी कोने में दो बच्चे लड़ाई कर रहे हैं, क्या आपको लगता है you can conduct your class smoothly? If the children are not listening to you, can you conduct the class smoothly? If the children are not ready to learn with you, can you teach them properly? So classroom management is most probably the very first thing that the teacher should learn in the 21st century state. Okay, now what is classroom management? Classroom management does not involve making the children sit properly, organized way mein baitho, baat mat karo. No, classroom management says motivate your students, bring them up to the appropriate behavior, self-esteem, and prepare them for the future life. Classroom management says that even if the child is giving a wrong answer, you have to motivate the child. You cannot tell the child, hey, बुद्धू हो तुम, बैठ जाओ, तुमको कुछ नहीं आता. You cannot do this. You cannot demean the self-esteem of the child. So classroom management says you have to work very hard to keep the students motivated, their self-esteem high. Then, everybody will be happy. And if you are happy, if your class students are happy, if you are happy, only then learning will take place. Next is classroom management depends upon another very important fact, and that is be prepared. If you're going to the class unprepared, it's a wastage of time. You've wasted 35 minutes into 40, 35 into 40 minutes. If your period is of 35 minutes, or if your period is of 40 minutes, 40 into 40 minutes, you're wasted. So going unprepared to the class is the biggest crime a teacher can do. So be prepared, creative, imaginative in your lesson planning, which we ignore the most. Next is effective discipline. Effective discipline means I don't have to say, yes, you're right, Manjuji, go with the proper lesson plan. We don't have to say, be quiet. The children will themselves know what is to be done. So maybe for that, you can formulate some very, very tacky kind of class rules along with the children, democratic class rules, which everybody will follow because they have prepared that. Next, classroom management involves providing and creating a safe, comfortable learning environment. Child should not feel that ma'am is biased. Ma'am तो मुझसे पूछेंगे ही नहीं, सर तो मेरी तरफ देखेंगे ही नहीं, सर तो सिर्फ उन लोगों को पढ़ाते हैं, ये 4 बच्चों को पढ़ाते हैं, मुझे क्या, मैं तो कुछ भी कर सकता हूँ क्लास में. So no, your classroom environment should be very safe, very motivating, very, high in moral values, and child should feel very, very good in the class. And the final thing is ensure the right climate for learning to occur. As I always say this, आप सबसे बढ़िया क्वालिटी की बीज खरीद लीजिए, लेकिन अगर आप उसको सूखे मिट्टी में डाल देंगे, क्या वो फलेगा फूलेगा? It will not. So before you sow the seed, friends, you need to do one thing, and what is that? Prepare the soil. So prepare your children for the learning process. You know what happens? हिंदी की क्लास चल रही है, टीचर ने बोर्ड पे कुछ लिख दिया और मैथ्स की टीचर वहां दरवाजे पे खड़ी है, जैसे ही घंटी बजी मैथ्स की टीचर घुस जाए, बोर्ड मिटा दिया, मैथ्स पढ़ाना शुरू कर दिया. तो आप कैसे समझते हो बच्चा समझेगा? How is it possible? The child was doing Hindi, and within a fraction of a second, you've switched over the subject mathematics. तो वो child is not a computer ना, कि उसके दिमाग में आपने on off का बटन लगा दिया, Hindi go, math start. Things cannot happen like this. When you are entering the class, you have to prepare the child. You have to prepare the child for this transition from Hindi to maths. So always prepare your children and then start teaching. Okay. Classroom management is very important because it establishes orderly environment. Okay, see whether they're ready or not. Absolutely, Manjuji, you're right. Increase a meaningful academic learning, decreases negative behavior, and provides economy of time as well as energy. So if your classroom is well organized, you get a lot of time to do your work. Your energy is saved. Negative behavior is decreased. Otherwise, all these things will be compromised upon. Now, there are 3 components of classroom management, friends. Please try to understand the 3 terms, although I'm not going in the details. Number 1 is content management. Number 2 is conduct management. And number 3 is covenant management. Covenant management is the latest one. I'll share a few lines on this, but content and conduct you all must be knowing. Content management means how you manage your content. Means your chair, your table, your smart board, your door, your projector, your blackboards, your chalk, and your lesson plans, curriculum, etc. Conduct management is what are the procedures you used. Like, first I showed you one video, one pic that I take a round of the class, so I don't need to go to the gym. This is one of conduct management, one great example of conduct management. Now, how do you conduct yourself? What are your procedures? Do you tell the teacher, suppose, for example, I want to say, come on, keep quiet. So I won't say keep quiet. Maybe I'll raise my hand. I'll put 2 fingers up. This means keep quiet. This is one technique that I have used in my class. Or maybe if I want the children to keep quiet, I will say hello. So my children know, ma'am is saying hello, it means you have to keep quiet. So what are your procedures that you're applying in the class? Okay, for discipline. Now, yes, your presentations, very correct. And covenant management is very important, but it is ignored. It is ignored widely in the classrooms. So yes, covenant management means that you have to develop your classroom as a social system, which has its own features that teachers have to make into account when managing interpersonal relationships in the classroom. Bonding with the children, Rachna ji, absolutely correct. In covenant management, we have to understand that अरे आप तभी क्लास ले सकते हो अच्छे से, तभी आपके बच्चे समझेंगे when the social atmosphere of the classroom is good. Somebody is very hungry, maybe in the last period a teacher has beaten a child. Do you think the child will be in the frame of mind to learn in the next period also? Suppose the children have come from heat, from PHE classroom. You have to give them 2 minutes time to become normal. Their heartbeat should become normal. They should drink water. They should stop panting, and then you start your session. So what is this? These are small things which we have to keep in mind in order to keep our social atmosphere, social environment of the classroom happy. Suppose a child has not brought lunch. He's not eaten anything in the lunch break, and next period you are teaching mathematics, or for that matter, any other subject. Do you think the child will feel good in the class and feel like studying? So you have to take care of the needs and requirements of the child, which actually play a very important role in learning process. Okay. Otherwise, your classroom may become like this. I hope nobody's classroom is like this. This is just, this is my transition strategy. Okay, just wake me up when it's all over. I hope your classes are not like this. Okay. Next, tip number 2. I hope you've understood what's classroom management, all of you. Tip number 2 is unplanned teaching teaching and learning is a recipe of wasting time. Is a recipe of wasting time. Am I right? You know, I've seen in so many schools, and I'm seeing struggling with my school also. Many teachers feel that writing a lesson plan, preparing a lesson plan is a waste of time. But friends, please understand, if you don't plan, what will you do in the classroom? You cannot do things instantly. Maybe you are a very good teacher who's giving a great lecture in the class, great. But apart from lecture, you cannot do anything. Even if you want to show video, you need a planning, which video you will show. Even if you want to demonstrate something, you need a planning. What will you demonstrate? What are the items? Where are the things which you will use for demonstration? So unplanned teaching and learning is a recipe of wasting time, friends. If this one thing at least you keep in your mind, I think many of your problems will be solved. Good instructions helps in preventing waste of time, frustration, boredom, and confusion in the classroom. So your class will become like this rather than this. If your class will not be like this, your class will be like this if you plan and go to your class. So that was tip number 2. Now we come to tip number 3. Please understand that children have different learning styles. If you teach only in one style, that is if you keep on giving lecture, only auditory learners in your classroom will learn. But lecture in your class, you have 4 types of students. Please understand this. Your 66% students are visual learners. Above 60% are visual learners. Visual learners मतलब जिनको देख के समझ में आता है, वो सुन के नहीं समझते, उनको दिखना चाहिए. अगर आप कह रहे हैं अर्थ इज राउंड, दे नीड टू सी द ग्लोब, वैसे नहीं समझेंगे. अगर आप कह रहे हैं कि भैया दिस इज इंडिया, दिस इज नोन द पेनिनसुलर पार्ट, दिस इज द प्लेटो पार्ट, दिस इज द गैंजेटिक प्लेन, यू हैव टू शो देम इन द मैप, देन ओनली दे विल अंडरस्टैंड, अदरवाइज दे विल नॉट अंडरस्टैंड. So visual learners, you can use graphic organizers for them, like mind map, the T chart, the flow charts, etc., etc. So visual learners are those learners which prefer images, graphics, maps, whatever. Maybe your smart board, you can show them some videos, some documentaries. So your class has got a group of learners who can only learn through visualization. If I use the word only, I'll be a little wrong actually. They can learn auditory wise also, read, write, and kinesthetic. But the best they learn through visual images. Next is auditory. These are the ones who learn by listening and speaking. Even if you give a lecture, they are good ones, they will learn. Next is read, write learners. So what are read, write learners? They learn when you allow them to read in the class. Suppose you're teaching a poem, you're teaching a prose, you are teaching a story, whatever you're doing in the class. Suppose you're doing history, you're doing mathematics, you're doing science, you're doing EVS, even for that matter, music, dance. Allow them to speak. Allow them to speak in the class so that they get interested in your class. Allow them to write in the class. Call them on the board. Give them a worksheet. Give them some written work. Okay. Appreciate the written work in the notebook so they will be good learners. And the final is kinesthetic learners, which means they learn best when they do some activity. Unke haath chalne chahiye. You know, learning happens through the 3H, that is the head, the heart, and the hand. So kinesthetic learners वो होते हैं जिनको अगर आप कुछ एक्टिविटी करने दोगे वो करके सीखते हैं. अगर आप उनसे कहोगे देखो शिप ऐसा होता है, नहीं, उनको नहीं समझ में आता. वो कहेंगे नहीं, मुझे ना प्ले डो दे दीजिए उनको और कहेंगे बेटा ऐसे शिप बनाओ, तब वो समझेंगे अच्छा शिप का शेप ऐसा क्यों होता है. Then they will understand better than just by saying. So friends, you have to remember this. अगर आपकी क्लास में 40 बच्चे हैं तो 60% से ऊपर के बच्चे विजुअल लर्नर्स होते हैं और तकरीबन वो 20 से 25% जो है वो ऑडिटरी होते हैं और बाकी जो बचता है वो होते हैं रीड, राइट एंड किनेस्थेटिक लर्नर्स. और आप क्लास में सिर्फ लेक्चर दीजिएगा, देन व्हाट विल हैपन, सिर्फ ऑडिटरी 20% बच्चे समझेंगे, सुनेंगे, सीखेंगे और बाकी जो 80% बच्चे हैं वो नहीं सीख पाएंगे, अच्छा रिजल्ट नहीं होगा. इसीलिए you work very hard, you prepare your lessons, you give very good lectures, you write on the board, you draw on the board, but your children don't perform well because you have not catered to the requirements of all children. Visual, auditory, read, write and kinesthetic. ये simple वैसा ही है. जैसे मान लीजिए आपने एक पार्टी थ्रो की और आपने उसमें बनाया चिकन बिरयानी, चिकन शाही कबाब, चिकन एक्सेट्रा, चिकन वो, चिकन ये, चिकन वो, तो आपकी पार्टी तो बहुत अच्छी थी, आपने बहुत पैसे खर्च किए, लेकिन your party will not be a successful party because all those people who don't eat chicken, they will be hungry, they will go home hungry. So will they say that the party was good? वो तो यही कहेंगे ना, कैसा पार्टी दिया मैम ने, कैसा पार्टी दिया सर ने, इसमें हमारे खाने को कुछ था ही नहीं। Although you spent a lot of money, आपने बहुत अच्छा पार्टी किया, लेकिन आपको तारीफें थोड़ी कम मिलेंगी। तो अगर आपको ज्यादा तारीफ चाहिए तो आप अंडरस्टैंड करो कि आपके 40 बच्चे एक जैसे नहीं होते। You have to think about everybody. Very correctly said. The visual, auditory, read, write and kinesthetic learners, सबके लिए कुछ ना कुछ होना चाहिए आपके क्लासरूम में। So when you plan a lesson, please plan accordingly. Now, tip number four, multiple intelligences. Now, what is the meaning of multiple intelligence? Although this is the entire session on its own, but I'll simply tell you. You know, Howard Gardner says there are 8 kinds of intelligences. Everybody, intelligence का मतलब क्या होता है ये समझें आप सबसे पहले। Intelligence का definition हमारे दिमाग में बहुत गड़बड़ सड़बड़ है। Intelligence का मतलब होता है the ability to learn. जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल आप क्लास में कोई टॉपिक पढ़ा रहे हैं, अगर किसी बच्चे को एक बार में समझ में आ गया तो व्हाट डू वी से, हाँ द चाइल्ड इज वेरी इंटेलिजेंट। आपने 2 बार में समझ में आया तो चाइल्ड इज गुड, 3 बार में समझ में आया तो वेरी एवरेज, 4 बार में समझ में आया तो मैम बहुत भूसगोल है, समझ ही में नहीं आता, उसको बुद्धू है, नॉट इंटेलिजेंट है, हम यही कहते हैं। लेकिन ये गलत है। इंटेलिजेंस मीन्स अबिलिटी टू लर्न, लेकिन अबिलिटी टू लर्न इवन एवरी पर्सन इज डिफरेंट। I learn through songs, you learn by writing, he learns by looking, she learns when she is taken into the nature for a garden, she learns very fast. This person learns by talking to each other. Another person learns वो खुद से पढ़ के सीखता है. There are different types of people, 8 types of intelligences have been defined. यानी मैं आपको सिर्फ ये समझाने की कोशिश कर रही हूँ कि आपके क्लास में 8 टाइप के बच्चे हैं। एक तो लर्निंग एबिलिटी के हिसाब से 4 है और इंटेलिजेंसेस के हिसाब से आपके क्लास में 8 तरीके के बच्चे हैं। वो क्या क्या है आप समझिए इसको। यू कैन टेक अ स्क्रीनशॉट ऑफ दिस एज वेल। नंबर 1 इज बॉडीली काइनेस्थेटिक, जिनको आप कुछ करवाते हो तो सीखते हैं, काइनेस्थेटिक बच्चे हैं, ठीक है। नंबर 2 इज इंटरपर्सनल, जो बात करते हैं, पीपल स्मार्ट, वो बात करके समझ जाते हैं, कोलैबोरेट करके सीखते हैं। नंबर 3 इज वर्ड स्मार्ट, जो शब्दों के जादूगर होते हैं, वो आप लेक्चर भी दोगे तो भी उनको समझ में आ जाएगा। Another class of people are logic smart, analytical, logical people. वो पजल्स के थ्रू, राइम्स के थ्रू, सॉल्व के थ्रू बहुत अच्छा समझते हैं। ये मैथ्स वाले लोग होते हैं, फिजिक्स वाले लोग होते हैं। हम समझते हैं सिर्फ ये लॉजिक स्मार्ट पीपल आर इंटेलिजेंट। नो माय डियर, इवन द बॉडी काइनेस्थेटिक, इंटरपर्सनल, वर्बल, लिंग्विस्टिक, ऑल आर स्मार्ट, बट प्रोवाइडेड यू टीच देम लाइक दैट दे विल अंडरस्टैंड। देन यू हैव नेचर स्मार्ट, मतलब इन बच्चों को पेड़ पौधे जानवर से बहुत प्यार होता है, अगर आप उनका एग्जाम्पल से समझाओगे वो जल्दी समझेंगे। Then it is self-smart people, खुद से समझते हैं, आपको क्लास में जो पढ़ाना पढ़ाओ, but this child will go home and this child will do self-study and understand. Are you understanding? Maybe in the class the child will be quiet, the child will not perform very well, but the child will do well in exams because the child will do self-study. Next is visual smart. Visual means visual learners. इनको आप कुछ दिखाओगे, they will understand very well. And finally is a musical smart. इनको आप कुछ भी म्यूजिक के फॉर्म में समझाओगे, they will understand. They will understand very well. So maybe a very difficult topic according to the teacher can be made a song. Number 1 went to number 2. Then we have a decimal. Maybe if you sing like this, you can teach maths to the child very well. Are you understanding? तो होता ये है माय डियर फ्रेंड्स कि बच्चे सारे इंटेलिजेंट होते हैं, लेकिन टीचर बेचारा एक ही टाइप के इंटेलिजेंट बच्चे को क्लास में पढ़ाता है, एक ही तरीके से पढ़ाता है। So after today's session, I would request all of you that when you go to the class and when you're teaching a topic, please teach in 4 ways. For the VARK, visual, auditory, kinesthetic and read write learners के लिए पढ़ाएंगे। और दूसरी चीज ये कि जब आप पढ़ाएंगे तो आप ध्यान में रखेंगे कि you give such examples, you use such methods that all the 8 type of intelligent people understand. You use some activities, you talk to them, you make them write something on the board, you give some puzzles and riddles and thinking questions, you keep a plant in your class, you take them to the garden, you allow the child to do self-study and come back, you can show some images and you can sing some songs and teach in the class, and then you will see very soon आप सब ये कहिएगा, अरे मैम मेरे क्लास का सारा बच्चा इंटेलिजेंट हो गया, कैसे हुआ? बच्चा वही है, आप इंटेलिजेंट हो गए, आप एक तरीके से नहीं, अब 8 तरीके से पढ़ाते हैं। सो दिस इज वन ऑफ द मोस्ट important tricks of teaching well. Tip number 4, the latest trend. You've understood? So what all you can do? These are some suggested activities. You can do storytelling, group discussion, lecture for the verbal linguistic. For logical children, you can do experiments, problem solving, puzzles, as I told you. For visual ones, you can do art activities, visual presentations. You can use smart board. For musical children, you can dance, you can sing through, teach through songs. For intrapersonal, individualized instruction, independent learning, self learning, the child will do. आप अकेले में उसको पढ़ाओ, एक उससे थोड़ा कनेक्ट हो जाओ, अलग, not in a group, the child will do well. Body kinesthetic means the child will learn well while doing activities like drama, dance, sports. Then interpersonal means when you allow the child to collaborate. Interpersonal, एक दूसरे से. वो कैसे होगा? जब आप group activities कराओगे, group projects कराओगे, तो ये बच्चे बहुत अच्छा perform करेंगे. And naturalist means nature studies. Keep a plant in your class. The nature children उसकी तरफ बहुत attracted होंगे. If possible, keep a dummy aquarium in your class. Nature बच्चे बहुत अच्छा काम करेंगे. Yes, some wonderful ideas are coming in the chat box. Thank you, Manju ji. You've been very active throughout. Thank you so much. Tip number 5, very important tip I'm giving you now, that is differentiated instruction. This is a very latest tool technique which we use. As I told you, in your class there are 40 children, 40 have different needs. आपने देखोगे, मैं बहुत एक common example आपको देती हूँ. Some children in the kindergarten, when you teach them ABC, they write C, ulta D, ulta B. Okay, have you ever observed this? Why do they do this? Not because they are fools, not because they don't understand, not because they're buddhu, because they're different. They need a little help there. Other children don't need. They need a different help. So अगर आप पूरी क्लास को होमवर्क में दे रहे हैं कि write A one page, तो आपको इस बच्चे को क्या देना चाहिए? Write B one page, because this child needs special help in B, which others don't need. Are you getting? This is known as differentiated learning. So differentiated learning, today in the digital age, differentiated learning can be done in so many ways. You can give worksheets to such children. You can give 2-3 extra questions. You can give some extra homework to the child. What we do is we have formed a WhatsApp group of those children and we give them individualized sheets for their work. You can conduct an evening session with them. Maybe you add them all in a WhatsApp group and you conduct a small session for them. That will be extra. So you have to give something extra to this child so that this child also comes up to the level of the entire class. Maybe the child has got some calculation problems. This child needs some extra questions on additions. Others are doing it well. Maybe 2 children are there in the class. You can utilize this differentiated instruction method for them. Are you understanding this? Very important. Next is, every child's response is different. Please remember. लेकिन इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि वो बच्चा बुद्धू है, वो बच्चा गधा है, वो बच्चा foolish है. It's not that. Please. Every child responds in a different way. And every response should be noted with dignity. Very important. अगर कोई बच्चा हाथ उठाता है and the child gives a wrong answer and the teacher says, hey, keep quiet. You're a big fool, always giving wrong answers. Please remember this, that child may not ever raise the hand in the rest of his life. ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि वो कभी हाथ नहीं उठाए आंसर देने के लिए. क्या आप as a teacher इतना बड़ा crime करने के लिए तैयार हैं? Are you ready to ruin the self-esteem of the child like this? You have to keep the child motivated. I told you that's the strategy of classroom management. So please try to understand that interests, learning profile and readiness should be taken care of. कोई बच्चा आप मैथ्स का क्लास ले लो, बच्चा को मैथ्स में इंटरेस्ट नहीं हो सकता, वो चुप रहेगा, लेकिन वही बच्चा म्यूजिक के क्लास में जाकर जोर जोर से गाना गा सकता है. It all depends upon the interest. And the teachers play a very important role here. How much interest the teacher can create. Okay. Then the learning profile of the child. Maybe he's a visual child and you are doing kinesthetic. The child is not interested. Maybe he's an auditory child and you are doing visual. The child may not be interested. Maybe he's a visual child. You are always doing lecture method. The child is not interested. So you have to take care of the learning profile of the child also. And of course, readiness. I am just repeating this again and again. When you go to the class, the very first thing that you need to understand is, are your kids ready for you? Are your kids ready? क्या आपके घर में ऐसा होता है कि आप जब भी कहते हो डिनर तैयार है, खाना खाने आ जाओ, लोग आ जाते हैं क्या? हस्बैंड कहते हैं वेट फॉर 2 मिनट्स, मैं ये काम खत्म करके आता हूँ. बेटा कहेगा आपको मम्मा 2 मिनट रुक जाओ, मुझे पढ़ाई, ये नोट्स कंप्लीट करना है. बेटी कहेगी मम्मा 1 सेकंड रुको, मैं ये सीरियल कंप्लीट करके आती हूँ. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, सास कहेंगी कि अभी मेरे खाने का टाइम नहीं हुआ है. तो क्या करते हैं आप खाना डाइनिंग टेबल पर पटक कर चले जाते हैं अपने रूम में. डू यू डू दिस? You wait. You try to motivate. नहीं खाना ठंडा हो रहा है, जल्दी आ जाओ, गरम खाना खाने में मजा आता है. You will enjoy hot food. अगर ठंडा हो जाएगा मजा नहीं आएगा. आप कहते हैं ना, आप patiently wait करते हैं, आप कहते हैं, आप motivate करते हैं. So this is what you have to do in the class also. Every time my child is not ready for me, आपको उसको तैयार करना पड़ता है. Okay, and because of this, you need differentiated learning. Okay, next we go to the next slide. Next is seating arrangement is a very, very important component of classroom. If you take care of the seating arrangement of the children, I think a lot of your problems are solved. You must not go only for the traditional seating arrangement, because it can do a great deal to either facilitate or hinder what goes on in the class. Suppose your teaching seating arrangement is such that you can never move in the class. You can never reach out to the last child who's sitting there. I mean, I'm sure the last child will not show so much of interest until and unless you use every other technique in the class. So teaching arrangement can facilitate also. Teaching arrangement can hinder your session also. So please focus on teaching arrangement. I'm just showing you a few pics. You can just take a photo, click of this, or you can use other methods, imaginative methods, and you go ahead with teaching plan. Depends upon the number of students in your class, depends upon your classroom size, depends upon your furniture. You have to do this. Very good. And once you plan your classroom, suppose you make the children sit, that should not be the full and final settlement. नहीं हो सकता वो. ऐसा नहीं कि पूरा साल बच्चा वहीं बैठा रहा. नहीं, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता. You have to take care that you keep on rotating the children. And you have to take care कि कौन से बच्चे दरवाजे के पास बैठ रहे हैं. Distracted बच्चे तो नहीं बैठ रहे हैं. कौन से ऐसे बच्चे जो कॉरिडोर की तरफ ही ताकते रह जाएंगे. किस बच्चे को मुझे बैठाना चाहिए कॉरिडोर की तरफ. अगर मेरा क्लासरूम ऐसे पोजीशन पे है जहां से लोग आना जाना करते हैं, वो दिखता है, तो मैं कैसे बच्चों को बैठाऊंगी वहां, कैसे बच्चे को दूसरी तरफ बैठाऊंगी, कैसे बच्चे कहाँ बैठेंगे, ये डिसाइड करना टीचर्स के लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. Or keep on changing their places so that everybody gets a chance to sit on the first row, everybody gets a chance to sit near the window, everybody gets a chance to sit near the door, everybody gets a chance to sit, on the left side, on the right side, in the front, at the back, everything. Use your wiseness, use your knowledge for doing something good for the students. And this I would also say, seating arrangement is very important for developing doing the covenant management of the classroom, where I was talking about the social value of the class. So suppose some child is saying, मैं तो जब बैठूंगा तो इसी के साथ बैठूंगा, उसके साथ नहीं बैठूंगा या उसके साथ नहीं बैठूंगी. So that means covenant management is poor in the class. So you have to ensure that every child is ready to sit with everybody, all our friends in the class, so that your covenant management quotient is very high and you get full marks on that. Next very important tip is time management. Time management. Please remember, in the class, there are many things which will happen. Many things which will happen which will facilitate your class, and many things will happen which will hinder your classroom. It will hinder the plan that you prepared. जैसे मैं हमेशा कहती हूँ, टीचर्स तो प्लान बनाते हैं, लेकिन जो 40 बच्चे क्लासरूम में हैं, वो भी अपने एक प्लान के साथ तैयार रहते हैं. आज छिपकली छोड़ देना है, आज कॉकरोच छोड़ना है, आज हवाई जहाज छोड़ना है, आज टीचर को पढ़ाने नहीं देना है. They have their own plans. So if you are a great teacher, if you are a well-planned teacher, you will know how to overcome this. So please learn how to manage the time of your class. So for time management, there are 4 quadrants. I hope all of you are aware of this, that there's something urgent. If it is important and urgent, important and urgent, then do it. If it is important but not urgent, you can do it later. If it is not important but urgent, you have to do it before. And if it is not important, not urgent, please don't do this. Like, for example, maybe a teacher goes to the class and starts talking about what have you brought for lunch. If it is not applicable, of course, you can talk about lunch. I don't say that is bad. But if it is not applicable in your period, if your learning outcomes will be hindered by discussing this, please don't do that. Sometimes, teachers go to the class and talk about personal things also. Sometimes teachers go to the class and when they're not prepared, they teach something which they are not supposed to teach on that day. So please don't do such things. Remember, there are 4 quadrants. You have to take care of that. Important and urgent needs your first attention. Okay. Then is important and not urgent. Then not important but urgent. And then not important and not urgent. You just no need to do. Ignore it. Okay. Classroom time management helps in the efficient use of time, in helping students achieve learning goals and making classroom a pleasant place for teachers and students. नहीं तो क्या होगा, आप होमवर्क बोर्ड पे लिखकर और एक बोर्ड पूरा कंटेंट लिखकर निकल जाएंगे और अगला टीचर आएगा और वो कुरकुर कुरकुर करेगा. देखो इस टीचर को पूरा बोर्ड लिख कर चले गए, अब बच्चे का 5 मिनट लगेगा लिखने में, मेरा टाइम वेस्ट हो गया, होता है ना ऐसा क्लास में। फिर कुछ टीचर गुस्सा होकर मिटा भी देते हैं उसको, नहीं लिखना है। Tell that teacher to teach in her class or his class. I'm not going to give you time. So who is ultimately at loss? At loss, the child is at loss. It happens sometimes, yes. So set your goals, make a schedule, revisit, revise your plan. So manage your time. Whenever you're planning a lesson plan, please understand what is the time limit of your class, 35 minutes. And if your class is of 35 minutes, or maybe your class is of 40 minutes, you cannot teach for 40 minutes. Your teaching time is only 20 minutes. Rest, you have to do recapitulation, you have to do prior knowledge testing, you have to do activities, you have to do assessment for learning, you have to give homework. So set aside time for all this. So you must understand that if your class, if in your school, your period is of 40 minutes, 40 minutes is not your teaching time. At more, almost half is the teaching time. And the rest, you have to do all this so that your classroom is well managed, so that you can give the homework on time, so that you can set the stage for the students. You cannot go to the class and just say, open your books and notebooks, I'm going to teach this. You have to prepare the child. So for preparation, you need time. जैसे मैं हमेशा कहती अपने बच्चों को, माने assembly 15 minute का होता था. I always tell my children, 15 minutes you cannot deliver in the assembly. You have to set aside 1 minute time for the principal, maybe 1.5 minutes. You have to set aside 2-3 minutes for coming. You have to 6 minutes per person. So assembly has to be shortened. You must understand what is the net time that I'm getting. This is your gross time. 40 minutes is your gross amount. But gross amount and net amount is different. So similarly, gross time and net time is also different. Please understand this. Now, next one, I will always tell you that punishments don't help. It is positive reinforcement which helps. If you tell a child that if you talk in the class, I will give you a black star, the child will not be motivated. But if you tell the child, if you don't talk in the class, I will give you 2 red stars, the child will be more motivated. So please understand that penalties do not help. What helps is positive reinforcement. Students are more likely to do things they will be rewarded for than punished for. But unfortunately, teachers often focus more attention on punishing poor behavior than rewarding appropriate behavior. So once behavior goes unnoticed, rewards will help, punishment will not help. कुछ ऐसा करो अपने क्लास स्कूल्स में, टीचर्स कुछ ऐसा करिए आप कि आपके स्कूल में पनिशमेंट हो ही नहीं, सिर्फ रिवॉर्ड्स हो. तो यू नो व्हाट विल हैपन, अगर आपके घर में सिर्फ अच्छी अच्छी बातें की जाए तो बुरी बातों पे ध्यान ही नहीं जाएगा. तो आप अपने बच्चों को सिर्फ रिवॉर्ड सिस्टम समझाइए, तो their focus will be on rewards rather than punishment. So the focus is on reward, children will do good things. Children will not do bad things. So this is how you can decrease negative behavior in the classroom. Okay. Now, class rules should be general, short, easy, necessary, reasonable. Please, something which is reasonable and enforceable. Different for different kinds of activities, consistent and suitably. I am preparing class rules. Please prepare it along with your kids. You don't give the class rules, please. आप डिक्टेटरशिप मत करिए, आप अपने बच्चों को कहिए बेटा क्या रूल्स होने चाहिए आपके क्लास के. And you can tell the child, suppose the child saying, you can tell the child मैंने तो नहीं बनाया था, आपने बनाया था, अब आप अपना ही बनाया हुआ रूल नहीं ओबे करो. And you can put your class rules decoratively in the classroom so that it reminds children. And when you're putting the class rules, please don't use negative words. Raise your hand for permission to leave the seat. ऐसा इसको आप ऐसे भी लिख सकते थे ना, do not leave your seat without permission. That is negative. So you become positive. Raise your hand for permission. Raise your hand for speaking. Follow directions. Don't say follow directions, then you will be punished. So always go for the positive reinforcement. Okay. Now, 9. Very important. Very, very important. Harry Bong's simple 3-step approach for teaching. Explain, rehearse, reinforce. Explain means that's the teacher's part, how you're explaining. And when you're explaining, you have to take care of work. Visual, auditory, read, write, and kinesthetic. You take care of MI, multiple intelligence. And rehearse is your part, the teacher, I do. Then what happens? Rehearse means you do. Let the children do it. I, you. And reinforce means we. Together, successful learning. What has happened in the Have I been able to achieve my learning outcome? I do, you do, we do. So explain is I do, rehearse is you do, and reinforce is we do. This is a very, very great technique for making your classroom teaching very, very effective. You know, at the end of the day, what happens is you have 35 to 40 minutes. आपने तैयारी कर ली है अपनी कि मुझे इस 35 मिनट में या 40 मिनट में क्या करना है. आपने अपनी तैयारी कर ली. अब आपको ये सोचना है कि भैया क्लास से निकलने के पहले आपको ये चेक भी तो करना होगा ना कि जो भी आपने तैयारी की थी, जो भी आपने प्लान किया था, वो हुआ या नहीं. कैसे होगा? आपने पढ़ा दिया, नहीं आपने रिहर्स किया, पता से चलेगा. We always explain and rehearse with the students and then reinforce. And reinforce में I would like to stress here on assessment for learning. What is the meaning of assessment for learning? मैंने एक assessment लिया है, 4 क्वेश्चंस पूछे, मैंने दिया, मैंने बोर्ड पे बच्चे को कुछ काम कराया और मुझे पता चला एज अ टीचर कि ये जगह पे the children have done very well, but there are certain areas where almost the entire class is not done well. Majority. So what do? They say, children, you don't understand anything, you're big fools. No, the teacher should understand here that whatever method I've used for teaching, it has not gone to the students. So again, tomorrow I have to start from here. So you know from where you have to start the next day. Therefore, this reinforcement assessment for learning is very, very, very important. You understand this? Please don't leave your class without assessment for learning. That will be a starting point for the next day. Then very, very important is do activities, connect your classroom teaching with the 21st century skills. That is very important. Because, you know, if your skills are not there, then what is the point of teaching? What is the point of teaching? आप बच्चे को कितना भी अच्छा मैथ्स पढ़ा दो, इंग्लिश पढ़ा दो, हिंदी पढ़ा दो, अगर बच्चे में स्किल्स ही नहीं, सोशल स्किल्स नहीं, 21st स्किल्स नहीं है, तो वो बच्चा किसी काम का नहीं हमारे सोसाइटी के लिए. तो स्किल्स पहले आप समझ लीजिए. What are the 21st century skills? There are 3 L's. LLL, learning skill, literacy skill, life skills. In learning skill, there are 4 C's. What are they? Critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. In literacy skills, there are 3 IMT, information literacy, media literacy, technology literacy. And life skills, भी short form में मैं बता रही हूँ, FLIPS, आपको याद रखने में आसानी होगा. FLIPS means flexibility, leadership, initiative, productivity, and social skills. आप देखते हैं आजकल IIT करके बच्चा सुसाइड कर लेता है. आज आप सोसाइटी में देखिए डिवोर्स केसेस कितने बढ़ गए हैं. Why? Because children are not having life skills, social skills नहीं है उनके अंदर, productivity नहीं है, initiative नहीं ले सकते, relationship को जिंदा नहीं रख सकते. They have become very, very, you know, routine kind of work they do. जैसे आप rote learning कराते हो, बच्चे का लाइफ भी वैसे routine हो गया है. मतलब there is no excitement, there is no initiative, there is no productivity, there is no leadership to lead a life well. कोई अपने लाइफ की जिम्मेदारी नहीं लेना चाहता, कोई इनिशिएटिव नहीं लेता, कोई आपकी जवाबदेही नहीं लेता, अपने लाइफ की हम जवाबदेही नहीं ले रहे हैं. तो 21st century skills इनकॉर्पोरेट करना हमारी टीचिंग में बहुत बहुत जरूरी है. अब सवाल ये है, इट्स वेरी स्मॉल क्वेश्चन, यू विल आस्क मैम हाउ टू डू दैट. Very easy, very simple. I would suggest all of you to go through the 21st century handbook given by CBSE. You know, it very easily says small activities are given. जैसे मान लीजिए बहुत सिंपल से मैं आपको एक एक्टिविटी बता रही हूँ. If you want to develop critical thinking in the child, आप इंग्लिश की टीचर है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल किसी लैंग्वेज की टीचर है, आपने एक चैप्टर पढ़ाया. Now next day, suppose you tell the children, tomorrow we'll have a debate on this chapter. These 2 rows will speak for the motion, these 2 rows will speak against the motion. Good, children will prepare and come. उसी टॉपिक पर आपको डिबेट कराना है, तो आपका पीरियड वेस्ट भी नहीं हुआ, आपकी टीचिंग भी चलती रही. अब अगले दिन जब आओ ना क्लास में, what you do is you conduct this adla badlu. You tell those 2 rows which were preparing for the motion will today speak against the motion, and those 2 rows which were preparing against the motion will speak for the motion. Just change immediately. Give them 2 minutes time and start the debate. Now what will happen? The child's entire thinking process will take a 360-degree turn. The child will think in a new way now. So this is how you develop critical thinking. This was just one example. ऐसे बहुत सारे examples आपके उस 21st century skills के बुक में दिए हुए हैं. आप इन छोटे छोटे examples को pick up करिए और अपने classroom में use करिए. You will see that when you're teaching, उसके साथ साथ hand in hand, you are developing 21st century skills in your students also. So 21st century skills पढ़ाने के लिए कोई अलग से टीचर नहीं होगा, आप ही को पढ़ाना है. इंग्लिश के दौरान, हिंदी के दौरान, मैथ्स के दौरान, साइंस के दौरान. These are the methods by how you can use 21st century skills. तो आप इन skills को use करिए और अपने क्लास में बच्चों के अंदर डालें. The next one is using Bloom's taxonomy. This is the old one, this is the latest one, और मुझे लगता है जब तक एजुकेशन रहेगा, स्कूल्स रहेंगे, तब तक ब्लूम्स टैक्सोनॉमी जिंदा रहेगी. ब्लूम्स टैक्सोनॉमी को यूज कीजिए क्लासरूम में पढ़ाने के लिए. यू नो व्हाट ब्लूम सेज? ब्लूम कहते हैं कि अगर आप क्लासरूम में कुछ पढ़ा रहे हो and you're not teaching the child how to think, then your class is useless. So please, teachers, Bloom's taxonomy, when I say, I mean to say that you please stop rote learning in your classes. You teach the child how to understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. And when you teach the child how to create and evaluate and analyze, your classroom becomes so interesting, so unpredictable, so broad, so progressive that every child enjoys every bit of the classroom. Okay, so please understand this. He who learns but does not think is lost. Education without the art of thinking is useless. The last, I think this is the second last tip for you, art integrated learning in classroom, which CBSE is also advocating very strongly. You know, education is all about aesthetics also. And art is representing the beautiful. There must be art in everything. Don't you want to look beautiful? Don't I want to look beautiful? Don't my children want to look beautiful? So my school should look beautiful. My building should look beautiful. My classroom should look beautiful. My notebook should look beautiful. My book should look beautiful. My class and my teaching should be beautiful. So how can it be beautiful? When you amalgamate art in your classes. So you please use art integrated learning as a pedagogy. For both, these are two kinds of arts. Please remember, visual and performing art. Visual art means जो आप visualize कर सकते हैं. You know, visual learners, आपको मैंने बताया, visual, spatial, multiple intelligence, हर बच्चे को ये help करता है. अगर आप किसी भी चीज को visually करके दिखाएंगे, जैसे मैंने आपको example दिया, अगर आप streamline shape के बारे में क्लास में समझा रहे हैं ship का, तो आप उनको Play-Doh देकर उसको बनाने कहिए. This is art. Art does not mean only drawing. Art means clay modeling. Art means printmaking. Art means photography. Art means sculptures. Art means painting. Art means sketching. This is visual art. And performing art means puppetry, dancing, singing, drama. So do this. Suppose आप पढ़ा रहे geography पढ़ा रहे एक नदी के बारे में. That the river starts from this point and the river flows through all these areas and finally the river goes and merges with the sea there. Okay, you can do it through a drama. Maybe one child, you can form a human chain, and then one child would say, I am this place, my starts from here, and the drama continues. So this way, if you teach, the child will never forget. So please incorporate visual art and performing art into your classrooms. And last is plan backless days. As you will get fed up, I started my session by asking you that if I give you dal makhani and shahi paneer and roti every day, won't you be fed up? Similarly, my children, my students are also fed up. Your students are fed up of carrying that heavy bag to school every day. So once in a while, you should give them the freeness to come to school without bags. Plan a day without a bag. But when I say plan a day without a bag, I don't mean excursions. I don't mean trips. I mean solid teaching. Without books, without notebooks. Teaching where the child will learn through activities, where the child learns to do something without using a book, but it should be core teaching. Please don't deviate from there. Don't change your bagless days to excursions and trips, okay? There should be core teaching through activities. And even if the child is bringing a bag, as teachers, please be human and understand that the weight of the bag should not be more than 10% of the body weight of the child, which is, I'm sure, is not happening. Okay. So please remember that planning bagless days, planning is very important before execution. Same timetable you will follow. English के बाद maths के बाद हिंदी, जो भी आपके स्कूल का है. लेकिन आज हम maths book से नहीं पढ़ाएंगे. आज हम उसी टॉपिक को जो हम क्लास में पढ़ा रहे थे, उसी टॉपिक को हम एक्टिविटी के थ्रू reinforce करेंगे. So this is how bagless days move around. So making education barrier free. As CBSE talks a lot about barrier free, this is one of the ways you can make your class barrier free. Children without bags. See how happy the child is without a bag and how sad he is with a bag. So once in a while, the new education policy also says that at least 10 periods a day, 10 periods a session without bags. Kindly plan it. That's all from my side. Thank you. If you have any questions, you're most welcome to ask. I'll be very happy if I can answer them. So that was all. I gave you some tips regarding classroom teaching. I hope they are useful for you, but they will only be useful when you use them. If you don't use them and if you just go to your class tomorrow and forget about today's session, then taking this session will not be useful. So I request all of you to please use these tips in your classroom. So before I end, thank you once again, Patliputra Sahodaya, for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Now you can ask questions if you wish to, please. I can see a lot of thank you, but I'm waiting for some questions, if anybody has. Were these tips useful for you? Were they really useful? Or I was just a good orator? Please use these tips. Please use these tips. That is how you can keep Mithali ma'am alive, by using the tips. And you can always get back to me. I'm always available if you have any queries, any questions. So I believe there are no questions. I cannot see any question. Thank you for your love that I can see through the chat box and the emojis. That actually motivates me to come up with something new every time. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, friends. And before I conclude the session, I would definitely like to say that please send your posters to Patliputra Sahodaya Gmail, the best ones on Gmail, and you can post them also to Patliputra Sahodaya office. And the entries are very less. And G20 is a great platform for the students and for the schools. And we are actually very honored to get this opportunity to host these programs. G20 is a great event. So it's a great, concept. And our country has got the chance this time, and the theme is labor. So you please share the best posters of your school, soft copy of that on the mail ID of Patliputra Sahodaya, and you can even send the hard copies on the office address. Make sure that your entries reach on time. Very few entries have come so far. It is disappointing. I request all teachers here to please take care of this. Thank you so much. Thank you. May I leave the session now? May I leave the session now? Thank you so much. Thank you.